The drama surrounding Caitlin Clark's recovery has turned into something much bigger than basketball. What began as a promising season filled with hope and anticipation for the Indiana Fever ended up becoming one of the most controversial injury sagas in recent WNBA history. What the fans thought was a simple case of rest and recovery became a tangled web of deception, misdirection, and manipulation, one that left even seasoned injury experts stunned. The team said one thing, the timeline showed another, and by the end, the truth exposed a disturbing reality. Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever hadn't just mishandled Caitlin Clark's injury, they'd misled an entire fan base. It all started innocently enough. A minor injury here, a precautionary rest day there. Coach Stephanie White stood before the media, calm and confident, insisting everything was under control. Caitlin was progressing well, they said. She was day to day. Fans believed it. Why wouldn't they? After all, Clark wasn't just any player. She was the heartbeat of the franchise, the rookie sensation whose arrival had reignited interest in the WNBA. Every word about her mattered. Every update carried weight. But as the season unfolded, those updates started to sound less like truth and more like carefully rehearsed lines from a PR script. Week after week, the team fed the media an ever-changing set of stories. One moment, Clark was expected back within days. The next, she was questionable. Then suddenly, she was out indefinitely. The inconsistency wasn't just confusing, it was suspicious. White's explanations were filled with vague language. We're taking it 1 week at a time, she's building up her endurance, we're just being cautious. It all sounded reasonable on the surface. But behind the scenes, things didn't add up. When WNBA injury experts began analyzing the situation, they saw red flags everywhere. Recovery timelines for groin and quad injuries follow a specific path: mobility work, light drills, limited contact, and finally full 5-on-5 scrimmages before game clearance. Yet according to the Fever, Clark was somehow close to returning, despite never participating in those final stages of rehab. That alone, experts said, made the team's statements impossible. One even called it a full-blown cover-up, because from a medical standpoint, what the Fever claimed simply couldn't happen. Chloe Peterson, one of the team's media insiders, added to the confusion. At one point, she dismissed the idea of an ankle injury altogether. Then weeks later, she referenced it as the main reason for Clark's absence. Even the team's explanations shifted like sand. Was it the groin? The quad? The ankle? No one knew for sure. Each new report contradicted the last. And as the contradictions piled up, one thing became clear. Someone wasn't telling the truth. Fans started to notice the pattern. Every time ticket sales dipped or a nationally televised game approached, new reports surfaced hinting at Clark's upcoming return. The optimism felt calculated, perfectly timed to keep hope alive, just long enough to keep seats filled and merchandise flying off shelves. But when the truth began to leak out, that Clark hadn't even reached full contact practice, the illusion shattered. Injury experts confirmed what fans had feared all along. Caitlin Clark had been nowhere near ready to play. The entire narrative had been a lie. When Stephanie White claimed Clark was progressing through 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 drills, medical professionals immediately raised eyebrows. Those aren't advanced rehab stages. Those are early steps, the kind that come long before an athlete is anywhere near game shape. If Clark was still doing partial contact drills in late October, then she was never close to returning in August or September, despite the team's repeated promises that she was almost ready. The timeline didn't just look off, it looked deliberately falsified. The experts called it what it was: manipulation. The Fever, they said, had orchestrated a campaign of selective optimism. They gave fans just enough hope to keep them invested while concealing the harsh reality that their star player was still far from healthy. It was the kind of spin control you'd expect from a marketing department, not a professional sports organization supposedly prioritizing player welfare. Behind closed doors, insiders revealed an even more disturbing truth: the team's medical staff had reportedly warned management about pushing Clark too quickly. The risk of re-injury was high, they said, but those warnings were ignored. Instead, the focus was on optics, on maintaining the illusion of progress. The message was simple: keep the story alive no matter what. That illusion reached its breaking point during Clark's premature return in July. It was supposed to be her triumphant comeback, a symbol of resilience and determination. Fans packed the arena, media flooded the sidelines, and for a moment, it felt like the Fever were back on track. But beneath the bright lights, something was wrong. Clark's movements looked off. Her stride was shortened, her acceleration hesitant, her balance shaky. To the untrained eye, it was just rust. But to injury specialists, it was a glaring sign of under-recovery. And then came the real bombshell. Sideline reporter Holly Rowe revealed that Clark hadn't practiced with the team in the days leading up to that game. She was cleared to play without proper conditioning, without game speed preparation. It was reckless, borderline negligent. Experts couldn't believe it. "She wasn't ready," one said bluntly. "That wasn't a medical decision, that was a marketing decision." The Fever's motivation was obvious. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player, she was their brand. Her name sold tickets, drew sponsorships, boosted ratings. Her presence meant profit. So they pushed her back into the spotlight before she was ready, gambling with her future for short-term gain. And when the inevitable happened, when her groin flared up again, they downplayed it. "Minor setback," they said. "She's fine." But she wasn't fine. The damage was real, and this time, it would take much longer to undo. Weeks later, during a routine matchup against the Seattle Storm, disaster struck again. The Fever were leading late in the game, the outcome already secure. Yet with less than a minute on the clock, Stephanie White inexplicably sent Clark back onto the court. Moments later, she collapsed, clutching her leg in agony. The same groin, injury that had haunted her all season, had finally given out. The arena fell silent. And in that silence, every question fans had been asking suddenly had an answer. Experts reviewed the footage and were horrified. Clark had shown visible signs of fatigue long before the collapse. Her mechanics were off, her movements labored. She shouldn't have been playing at all, let alone in garbage time with the game already won. It wasn't just a mistake, it was malpractice. Sports physicians called it medically indefensible. One even said it could set her recovery back by months. And that's exactly what happened. Instead of transparency, the Fever responded with deflection. White dismissed the incident as a minor setback, praising Clark's toughness and focus. But by then, no one was buying it. The experts were unanimous. Clark's condition had been mishandled from the start. Her premature return, her re-aggravation, and the lack of honest communication all pointed to a pattern of negligence and deceit.